Welcome back. Welcome in. It's Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com, a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casazza, joined surprisingly by Chris Anderson. Chris, we do these rapid reaction podcasts. A lot of the time they're done ahead of time. Sometimes it's something that you see coming and you kind of got to be ready or at least on your toes. We often talk before these things about what we're going to discuss and how we're going to do this. Our prep here was about 9 to 11 seconds of saying, let's just go. This will be pretty authentic here. I had plans to not be here this evening, right? If this game started later, I probably would have been like, hey, Chris, want to grab that game? I doubt we're alone there. I will say this, the game the day before Thanksgiving when they played Gonzaga, I was out and about and wasn't going to be around and was like, I think I know how that one goes. Felt similar here, especially when you hear no Tucker DeVries, no Amani Hansberry, Kansas at the Fog. Pretty quickly, I was just telling my wife who's watching the game and people who I was texting with, like, I don't know, this has a feel. It's 9-0, double digit halftime lead, 18 points in the second half. Gets a little hectic because it's Kansas, it's college basketball, it's sports. West Virginia now 1-11 at Allen Fieldhouse, one of the more improbable outcomes that I can remember here. Again, haven't had time to process this. Prison of the moment. That's half the fun here, though, because he didn't see this coming. Let's try to figure this out, Chris. What do we have? Where does it rank? How did we get here?
I I don't know how we got here, honestly, because I think one of those things where it's like, hey, if you told me Tucker DeVries is out, Imani Hansberry is out, Jaden Stone did not return, and Javon Small had, I believe, 9 points heading into the final minute, I would have said, mm, Kansas by 30.
Yeah.
Like, did Javon Small not play the second half because they were losing by so much, and you got some young guys in there? But because I thought there was a chance, if there was a snowball chance and heck that West Virginia was going to win this game, it was because Javon Small went bonkers.
Mm.
30 points, 7 assists, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, some kind of game like that. Now, he was impactful, wildly impactful, played all 40 minutes, did a little bit of everything, but it was in a way that I was not imagining in my head for West Virginia to win this game because so much of that also relied on everyone else stepping up. And so many of the guys that stepped up, and we'll get to it in a bit, were guys that hadn't yet, guys that had only played bit parts on this team so far this season. So you're kind of seeing new and breakthrough guys 2 months into the season, as we're starting conference play, which is just wild to see for West Virginia, and why I think this was so different, so special, so surprising. So much of a reason why you and I both were like, well, let's hurry up and get that Darren DeVries post game in and get out for New Year's. And then instead at 2:45 p.m., what was that? Like halfway through the first half,
Yeah.
just a message in my inbox from you. Rapid reacts pod question mark. I said we might need to, and
Yeah.
here we are.
Oh, boy. Um, Sheesh. I'm trying to think here, Chris. Like, the question will be like biggest win since. I mean, they beat Kansas last year. That was completely unexpected, just all things considered. Their win against Ohio State and Cleveland. I mean, shoot, almost what 5 years ago to the day. Um, I mean, shoo, it's a long, long time. Which here's the point: we'll have an answer soon. We could have a more thorough conversation in the days or hours that follow. The fact that it's here, this Chris, this just changes things now because you've got to get to I think 17 wins in the regular season, maybe 18. Now you feel a whole lot better about just 17 with the win at Kansas, which very few other people are going to have. And that's 10 now. So it's just seven left, right? So now you're like, you have almost an entire conference season. Can they go? Here's the deal, Chris. Would 7-12 at this point now be a disappointment? Think about that for a second. That's how much changes now. If they go 7-12 the rest of the season, which is not far from what the expectation was for the entire conference season, what, 48 hours ago? Would you be disappointed with a 8-12 Big 12 record right now? We can get a little carried away now, can we?
Yeah, I think you're going to get
And,
carried
and
away. And
disappointed,
then
disappointed being very different for you and for me than the people
right.
listening to this and watching this or whatever. But like, just disappointed that wow, I thought they had more of their sleeve.
Yeah. Well, and again, there's so many more variables. Obviously, there's still to come. The Hansberry, the Stone, the DeVries, are they coming back? All that stuff. But yeah, 8-12. You're like, hey, 8-12. This team beat Kansas in Kansas. Like without those guys, 8-12 should be the minimum now, like the bare minimum as far as this team's concerned. Now, I think again, we talked about this in football too. We talked about this goes for all sports. Once you make the one win into the two, into the three, into the four, whatever, you get to that point, your expectations are supposed to change. You can't be like, oh, well, in the preseason, you thought that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you thought in this preseason. You're here now. You have elevated it to this point. Sorry for those just listening instead of watching it. You've elevated it to here. Now the expectation is here, and you just got to keep going up. And I think that's what West Virginia has done. That's what Darren DeVries has done with this team. And hey, it's their fault. Their fault for playing so well, making everybody think, hey, this team is better than everyone thought in the preseason. And now the expectations should be calibrated accordingly.
Now you get back-to-back home games against Oklahoma State, which looks like one of your bottom-ish teams. Arizona, which will have to come all the way here, and by the way, has lost to West Virginia. Then you got to go to Colorado. That'll be tough just because of the nature of that trip. And Colorado might be pretty chippy with what we saw yesterday's game against Iowa State. Um, 6 straight wins, Chris. Then you're looking at a chance to have a 7, 8, 9 game winning streak here. We're a team only won 9 games last year. So already now with today's win, something that West Virginia has never done. Kansas has never been on one of the Big 12 before. I don't know if you heard that. West Virginia surpasses last season's win total as well as the win total against ranked teams. And it has a chance to put together a winning streak, as I just mentioned, that will match last season's entire win total. So, yeah, things have certainly changed here in a hurry in the last 2 hours, 2.5 hours for sure. Let's cherry pick now, Chris. Biggest reason we're having this conversation right now and not showering, ironing clothes, getting ready for the New Year's Eve festivities.
I want to say, I mean, obviously Javon Small, excellent game. 13 points. You're like, whatever. But 11 rebounds. And again, this is something like I hit hard in the preseason. I said this if this team wants to rebound with the big boys, it's not going to be about the big boys. It's going to be about the wings and the guards and how they attack because it looks like the big men can box out. Can the guards go get the ball? 11 rebounds for Javon Small. 11. It's amazing. But man,
Just the,
okay, let's focus on Javon Small for a minute because that was a remarkable performance by him because right from the beginning, I think the very first thing I noticed was the very first play on, I think it was the first play. Maybe West Virginia missed their first bucket for sure. Pick and roll. Javon Small comes off the screen. So patient. So patient as it's developing because Eduardo Andre rolls towards the basket. His man's coming back. And now it's to the point where the guy that's guarding him, the guard that's guarding him is coming back to him. And Hunter Dickinson, who is guarding Andre, is now trying to get back to Andre. And some worse point guards would have tried to rush that pass, tried to lob it over. But he waited. He was patient. Hunter Dickinson turned his back, and then he gave a nice little bounce pass, leading Andre to the block. Easy layup behind Dickinson. Dickinson didn't even know that Andre had gotten the ball until it was too late. It was like, wow, he's, you know, other people get involved, and he's in control. And he seemed to be in control all game long, playing all 40 minutes, never leaving the court, and just controlling the game on both ends.
6 assists, 2 on 3-pointers, 3 on dunks, and 1 on a layup. That is pretty good work. I mean, that's not like, hey, I'm handed to you at the foul line. It's a dunk, it's a dunk, it's a layup, it's a dunk, it's 2 threes, it's guys in their spots too. Um, quick three to Powell or quick pass to Powell in his spot, quick pass to Yasuku in his spot. Just really good game. 40 minutes in the first half. At halftime, you're thinking, I don't know, he played a lot. What did he do? And you just thought in the back of your head, he's pacing himself. He's going to do something. And once it got tight there, and I don't know what minute marker that was because it felt really nervy most of the second half, and you knew that was coming. But let's just say the final 2 media timeouts, let's say, so maybe 8 minutes or so. He seemed in control and had his fingerprints on everything. Just pretty impressive by him, and didn't look tired or fatigued, was making plays. And that falling down, getting back up, jumper from the corner, just an extremely difficult play when you talk about the balance and the dexterity you have to fall down to get back up. And then, by the way, get a shot up over KJ Adams running at you, jumping, all net too. Just a clutch shot. Mine, Chris, will be that, man. If you watch Darren DeVries' news conference yesterday, he just kind of talked about you've got to figure out where they're weak and go at them. And man, I do not think Hunter Dickinson's a weak player, but they made him look out of his element guarding high ball screens. They moved him like a chess piece, like take him out of here and we're going to set something else up. It was evident early. And I don't know, Chris, it might have been so good that it almost cost them the game because they played Flory Badunga a bunch in the second half and he was causing problems, and they played those two bigs together. Um, that was a happy accident, I guess, for Kansas, not for West Virginia. It doesn't matter. Badunga ends up committing a pretty important foul at the end of the game there on Javon Small, by the way, realizing he's got a lumbering defender on him. Let's try a bit shot fake him in the air and draw free throws. Did. But they had a plan to do something, not because they were small, as like let's hide our disadvantage. They did something because they had an advantage. And I don't know how to say this about Eduardo Andre. It's not a negative, I promise. I don't think you watch him and go, man, what a good player. Just so good at basketball. But you watch him and say, he is so good at what he does. So I don't know, like he's not good, but he's good at what he does. I don't know what the right phrasing is there. I need to workshop this take. But what they ask him to do and what he does, he's so good at it. And that was a great game for him. Attacking on the ball screens, full rolls, short rolls. At one point, Chris, I was thinking he should have 20 shots because he kept diving to the basket and he was either posting up smaller guards or he was wide open. And I think it surprised West Virginia for much of that first half that he was repeatedly open, and they eventually kept feeding him the ball. He was running on the break. He was rolling to the basket with nobody near him. He was posting up guards who got caught in a switch. If that was the plan, it certainly worked. And his productivity in the first half, when they got this upset on the tracks and moving, that's a huge thing for me.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. If you were starting a team, would you take Eduardo Andre or a young Bill Russell? You want to start there? No? Okay. But no, I understand exactly what you're saying just a minute ago, because we talk a lot about bigs sometimes and we say, hey, this guy may not be the most like well-rounded player, but he's big and long. He can finish near the basket and he can defend near the basket. And I think that's how we view Andre. And that's what he did today. Like you said, he was always finishing near the basket on offense and on defense. I mean, he caused all sorts of issues for them when he was on defense, altering shots, blocking shots, just creating havoc down there. And like you said, right from the very beginning on that first score, he gets the dunk right near the basket. He finished strong all the time. Probably should have had a few more in there. I think got a couple called off just because he was being, I don't think he was being too physical, but it seemed the refs seemed to think he was too physical. And just like that was the best case version, I think, of what the expectations were for Andre heading into the season.
He's so good at ball screens too.
Yeah.
And he's mentioned this before. Like he does not ball screen the same for everybody. He knows who wants a handoff. He knows who wants the ball before he gets past him. He knows who wants the ball after he gets past him, and he just uses his body really well. And watch him rebound. He's not a big rebound number guy, but West Virginia rebounded pretty well tonight because he doesn't go after balls he's not going to get, but he makes sure his guy isn't. He doesn't try to block shots he's not going to get. He blocks 4. He probably swung at 5 or 6. He's just pretty good. And today you had to have him on the floor for as many minutes as you did, and it just seemed like just an all-time day for him. 15 points on 9 shots, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 block shots, 34 minutes. Significant for him. And again, played with a little bit of foul trouble in the second half there too. Chris, just looking at the box score here, West Virginia wins despite a free throw disparity here. West Virginia goes 4 for 6. 2 players had 4 free throw makes for Kansas. But yeah, more importantly, Kansas is 19 for 23. 19 for 21 from the foul line. But that's really about it, Chris. Everything else points at West Virginia. So we might say, how do we get here? If you hold that box score in your hand, it's going to make a ton of sense. They shoot a higher percentage. They're better from 3-point range. The foul line, yep, that's a problem, but they still overcome it. Only 6 turnovers to Kansas' 8. I wonder when the last time a team went into the Fog and had just 6 turnovers. They only gave up 7 points off turnovers. Those are huge numbers usually when West Virginia plays or anybody plays at Allen Fieldhouse. Total rebounds end up being minus 11 in the second half, Chris, because they were plus 10 in the first half. So 33-32, -1, not bad. Nothing really bad. Defensive rebounds, offensive rebounds, second chance points, they lose 7-2. Bench points, they lose 11-8, which frankly feels like a win. Points in the paint are easy, 28-28. Fast break points, 4-2. I mean, this when you look at it on the court, on the paper, the better team won today. The bigger mystery is how did West Virginia get to being the better team, especially when Small's over 6 in 3-point range, and he's made 6 threes in games before too. So just a couple of exceptions to what otherwise makes a lot of sense when you look at it on paper.
Yeah, the turnovers thing really stood out to me too. I mean, you mentioned it right there, only 6, and yeah, Kansas only had 8, but West Virginia the first half, the what's funny is they had 6, and like all 6 of them came in the last couple minutes of each half. In the first half, they had 0 for the first 13 and a half minutes. In the second half, they went 18 minutes and 26 seconds before they turned the ball over in the second half. Like, that's just you talk about trying to find possessions. You try to talk about finding ways to get more points, and even if you're maybe not as efficient, you get more possessions. You keep more possessions rather than thinking about as taking more possessions, like getting steals, getting offensive rebounds. How about you keep them by not losing them with turnovers? And West Virginia did an excellent job of that because, yeah, I mean, you look at it just like you said, that box score looks great for West Virginia all the way across the board.
You go over the over and back rule for me because Doug Sermons is right there, and I thought the ball had to go all the way across the line. I didn't think that the defender's feet or anything made a difference. I honestly don't know the rule, and again, we sat down and did this right away. I meant to look it up and I did not. So on me for not knowing ball. Chris, I don't know if people know this, but you played. Uh,
Yeah.
Takes one to know one here. What's the rule in the application there?
Well, first off, I didn't dribble a whole lot. I was one of those guys that hey, I was Eduardo Andre, except I couldn't block shots or dunk. So, you know, think of it that way. But your body does have to cross. I think the ball, if you dribble the ball across the court, so yeah, like if you're standing on the offensive side of the court and you have the ball on the offensive side of the court and you dribble the ball on the backcourt, that is definitively backcourt, even if you don't take your body across backcourt into the backcourt. So
So they get that right? Because the ball did not touch the backcourt,
I
but it
don't
was
think
clearly
I
over.
think yeah. I don't think you I think your body can go over, but if the ball stays over, wait, let me see. Hold on, let me type it in.
All right. Well, I'll fill in the meantime
Well,
here.
let's put it this way. I will say this. The refs, I was joking about Doug Sermons. Then Brett Smith decided to make a name for himself there. I was not familiar with his handiwork, but he decided to make himself known. And then it wasn't either of those that made the call at the end, right? For Javon Small. I mean, it was the correct call, but for Javon Small's where he drew the foul at the end to get the game winning free throw. I believe it was the third ref that might have called
That was
that.
Randy
So
McCall. He was right there.
yep. Kudos all around to the refs to making sure they were intimately involved in this game in
Mhm.
all aspects of it. Uh, but yeah, wait. Sorry, go ahead. I'll look it up and see, make sure, because I know the ball goes over, but if that goes over,
Yeah.
yeah,
So we had the over and back, which again, Sermon's just right there. He's looking at it and he didn't even hesitate. And like the foot wasn't even near the line. The tricky part there is I want to say that the line at Kansas is blue and it's right in the middle of the blue feathers on the Jayhawk at midcourt. And I've talked to people before who played there and they're like, man, that's a tricky paint job, I guess, because you don't know really where you are and all that stuff. It can be tricky. That's also the possession right before Small drives, falls down, gets back up, and makes the court, makes it again. And then you have really West Virginia a chance to make this game of its own down the stretch with Kansas with another turnover. West Virginia then throws a ghost pass to nobody. Got caught up on a out of a timeout, I believe, or at least a stoppage. Cut, don't cut. The ball goes the wrong direction. The player goes the other way, and then Zeke Mayo makes a three, and that guy's on a roll. It looks like he'll be a problem in the Big 12 there too. And then West Virginia kind of finds itself in a shootout there. And Oconee misses a jumper. Mayo again lines up a three, misses it. Dickinson grabs the rebound, scores. West Virginia can't inbound the ball, has to take a timeout, does get the ball in, has a foul when Kansas had a foul to give. And Chris, I honestly wasn't sure if they were going to call the foul there or call a jump ball. And I believe the arrow still belonged to West Virginia, so it doesn't matter. And then Okani throws the ball away, which looks like just a bonehead play. Harris gets the steal, which is what he does. I think he leads the active players in steals on the inbound by just running ahead of the pass. He gets it to KJ Adams, who for some reason goes at the basket and like triple clutches. But credit Okani, principle of verticality. He goes straight up. He does not bring his arms forward. He does not wave his arms out. He just goes straight up, forces a miss. The ball goes to Small, and he gets fouled and makes two free throws. Not over yet. You have a 3-point play because Sincere Harris, who has frankly had better games, he fouls Mayo on a drive where you just let him score there. That's elementary basketball. You're down by 3. They want to take it 2, fine. Let him take it, get fouled, make free throws, make them come back. Harris instead fouls Mayo. He gets a 3-point play. We have our first tie, 61-61, and then Small takes it home by getting Badunga in the air to draw the foul, 1.8 seconds left. And then Chris, like kind of a loss in all this, a bit of a hectic finish where they get a really good inbound pass from Dickinson to Adams. And Adams, I don't know if he's trying to draw a foul or if he just like that was kind of a ball where a bunch of people could have gotten to, but I was really wondering if you were going to get a whistle there. And all of a sudden, West Virginia's at the foul line going from, up 1 to down 1 when the game is over. But really just a frenetic finish. But all in all, man, when you look at some of those moments I just mentioned there, the artistry, if you will, of West Virginia in the first 20 minutes for sure. Very competitive both sides in the second half. Officiating got in the way a little bit. I didn't think it was that bad. And then just some clutch play by both teams, in particular West Virginia and some players who made some big shots like Yasufu and Small. Um, Man, all in all, an enjoyable afternoon for New Year's Day basketball, huh?
That was a great thing. It was stuck to streaming, right? Instead of, on national television, for everybody to see. No? Right. On the back court, if any part of the ball or player holding the ball comes into contact with the half court line or back court, that is an over back. Also, there is the establishing that your position in the front court. So where's that? If the trailing player jumps from the back court to catch the pass before landing, that is still an over the back violation because they never established position in the front court. So between those two things, I think got the right call, right? Or no?
Sounds to me like he blew it based on what you said because he never touched the ground on the other side. Like he jumped and saved it before he
Oh,
like
oh,
his
oh, yeah,
teammate had the
okay.
ball. But I
Yeah.
was I was just thinking that the ball got across in the air and then your body crossed it. And I think the entire defender's body or the entire Kansas player body was across the line. But I'm not even sure about that.
But if it's in the air, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't be. Like he would have to touch the half court line
Okay.
or back court.
Well,
So
Doug Thurman certainly owed West Virginia one through the years, didn't he?
yeah,
Because that was his call. He was right there looking at it too. And then and
several dozen more, and he might be even. Um,
Bill Self wasn't too happy, I think. Let's just go over this here too. Tucker DeVries out again. You're not going to get a lot of intel on this until it's definitive. My understanding is that and like this is everybody's understanding. He has like one more game in the first half of the season, which I believe is the 15th game, which would mean he has this would be 12. He could play one more game in the next 3. Think it makes sense for him if he can to play one of the next 2 games and see if he can recover and what it's like. And then maybe he can play the other game and you go on from there. But he has a small amount of time here now, just 3 more games until he's in the second half of the season. So the rule is injury in the first half of the season, no more than 9 games in the first half of the season. He's 8 games on an injury in the first half of the season. So that's the number there. Kenny Redshirt, yes. Jaden Stone, news to me that he went through warmups. That is as far as I know, and what we've been told and what I have heard from people, the first time he's been involved in basketball stuff. He might have been doing some shooting or whatever, but like I have not heard that he practiced. Perhaps he has during the break. Did not get a chance to catch up with people since they came back from Christmas break. That's a good sign. Hansberry, my understanding was that they were going to give it a shot. I think they said he warmed up. He went through warm-ups and it just wasn't there, but he's still in a boot. I would not freak out about him being in a boot and not playing if he did warm up. That is precautionary. You don't want him putting more weight on that when he doesn't have to. And if he's getting up and sitting down, getting up and sitting down, like yeah, it's not like he's gonna hurt himself, but like there's no reason for him not to have a boot on there. So DeVries could be a while. Might not see him again. Hansberry, I don't think is gonna be much longer. And Stone, it sounds like he's progressing toward playing sometime this season. So this 8-man, really seven, because Elizevich is kind of miscast as a five. But I mean, he's just doing what he can out there too. He gets a bad turnover today. It's not his fault, I don't think. That's one of the one times I think Small didn't really steal a possession like he wanted to. I'm not sure you're supposed to pass it to Harris Elizevich darting up from the post to set a screen for you. Tough spot for the big man there, but yeah. Point being, you're going to add some depth here. It sounds like sooner than later, with at least one piece, maybe two, and who knows, maybe three if DeVries gets all the way back.
So you ready to talk Big 12 championship odds now? Is that where
All right.
are we at that
So
point?
here's a fun one for you, Chris, because my travels, the Las Vegas coaching search thing became a capital T thing. People from the search checking on me, not the people who were on the plane, but like people who are I'm calling to ask stuff. They're asking, "Hey, are you going to go to Vegas? Did you make it to Vegas?"
Mhm.
Um, did make it to Vegas a couple years ago. A bunch of my friends had a 40th birthday party planned. We are going to go to Arizona for Major League Baseball spring training games and just hang out in Arizona. Didn't happen because COVID. Plan now, Tucson, Thursday through Sunday, March 21st through 24th. March 21st is the first Thursday of the NCAA tournament. Uh, Talking to friends over the Christmas break, asking about it. Had a Kansas friend spend the night at my house just last night. You gonna make it? You gonna make it? I'm like, I don't know. Is your team gonna beat the team that I cover? Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably right. Here we go again, Chris. Am I going to Tucson for spring training baseball on the first Thursday of the NCAA tournament, or will I be somewhere with the Mountaineers in March Madness?
Well,
Let
you know what,
my
Mike?
vacations be the talisman for this team.
I think, Mike, you can be safe because you'll just go see them when they play in the Sweet 16 the following weekend, right? And that,
Okay.
I mean, that. Would you like to guess out of 16 teams? I believe, this was pre today's game, so they haven't vaulted to be favorite yet. Out of 16 teams, where do you think West Virginia was on odds to win the Big 12 championship, Big 12 regular season title?
In the Big
If-
12,
Yeah, out of 16.
13.
Higher.
Oh,
Like better, excuse me, better.
but 9?
Yep, there you go.
Okay.
Ninth.
All right. I probably should have had
After
that number
B
in my head. I
worse
didn't
than
think.
well behind BYU, apparently.
Okay.
One, two. They still got Kansas. One, two, three, four, five, six is Kansas or Arizona, excuse me, which was surprising to me. Seven, Cincinnati, eight, BYU, then West Virginia, ninth, kind of on an island there in the middle, well behind BYU. BYU plus 3,500, West Virginia plus 9,000. And then, but Kansas State, oh, no, 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 10th, excuse me. They got Arizona State just in a different spot. So 10th.
Oh, really? Wow. I don't know about that one. Yeah, this just feels like two wins, Chris. In the grand scheme of things, just you're going to weight certain things, and a resume is going to look different with a win at Kansas. And Kansas is probably going to be okay. I don't think it's the year they fall apart and miss the tournament, like, or Ohio State the year that West Virginia beat them didn't really do a great job the rest of the season. There's been times before you have an early basketball win, you're like, oh boy, great things, and it doesn't happen. I mean, Kansas is probably going to win, I don't know, 8 more Big 12 home games. I don't think they're going to lose a bunch of them. They'll probably be right up there at the end. But that's it, Chris. Just the first 24 hours of Big 12 play. Like Colorado showed me a bunch against Iowa State, which also showed its mettle for sure. And then, man, Kansas State, which couldn't do anything right despite a lot of money spent in its roster, beat Cincinnati. And Cincinnati's a team that was shockingly to me in the top 15. Had a big injury, though. Hadn't really had marquee wins, and you just wonder, all right, how are they going to win away from home? And they lose to Kansas State, and the West Virginia probably the biggest surprise of them all right now. I mean, maybe, I mean, nationally, when you figure who they didn't have and where they were, that's probably one of the bigger surprises so far this year. Um, this conference, I don't know, Chris. I know it's going to be tough. Probably trailing the SEC. Big Ten looks pretty good too, but this might be the football equivalent of Big 12 too.
I might next few days. I hope you're ready for some football stuff because that's obviously New Year's Eve right now. New Year's Day, still dead period. We're starting to see some official press releases of assistant coaches being added. Chad Scott, Zach Alley already in. And then starting January 2nd, there will be a rolling train of transfer recruits coming to town. Between January 2nd and January 11th, that'll be the big stretch because January 11th is report day. might push into that weekend, January 13th being the first day of spring enrollment. I mean, I'm thinking a couple dozen at least transfers coming in to visit West Virginia, check things out. And again, it'll be a few guys coming in on the third, a couple guys on the fourth, a couple guys on the fifth. So it'll be wild the next few days. What do you got coming up?
I was kind of hoping you'd figure out who the defensive backs coaches were. Um, I that's got to happen soon, I would think, just because like what you just mentioned there too. Hopefully some Foyas come back. I've probably made a lot of people mad with just some Foyas that I've been. I mean, I'd like to know how much money people are making. That's just an interesting thing because I think it's such a big expense, not investment. That's going to be a big expense. I think that's a story. I don't
Do
really
they
care
do
how
they have
much
just
money
like a
they
little
spend.
special folder for you, a little tower over here of just like 8 Mike FOIA requests, 18, 20? What are you at
Here's the
right now?
thing, like,
What's in the queue?
but like, wouldn't it be easier just to release it?
Yeah, didn't they used to do that? I thought they do when they announce a head coaching hire. It would
Yeah, they
just
used to
like,
do a lot of
here's the
things they no longer
contract.
do, Chris. Not gonna go there.
Don't do it.
I just think it'd be easier. I I could. Hmm. I've sent a lot of FOIA requests where I don't have to, just because I'd like to know who's there. Like, and what was? Did you catch the Chad Scott release?
Yeah, I read it. What about it?
Rehired?
Yeah, yeah.
Have
I
not seen that before. That might be purely semantics, but retained, rejoining, returning, but rehired. But what does that mean? That it's
most accurate, right? I mean,
sure,
based off
yes.
of what we had heard, that initially the plan was not to keep him, and then circle back around and do keep him in a slightly different role than before.
Yeah. So I wonder if they just I don't know what happened. What's his contract now? So we're trying to figure that stuff out. So hopefully some of the again, my it's not my general interest sometimes is the business of this, but a lot of people have readers, listeners have expressed to me that they're very curious to see how much West Virginia is throwing into this, which I think is a really important thing. Like a lot of people are spiking the football, as you said, because West Virginia paid a lot of money to get Oklahoma's offensive coordinator. We think that Oklahoma probably was able to pay more and offered more. Certainly was able to pay more, probably offered more too, and West Virginia gets him. But how much money? We know that 1.5 million a year. You're putting a lot of money into this, and then how does the 5 million, the 2.5 million? So, anyways, I'm gonna try to solve some of those puzzles, and yeah, hopefully some hires. And now we really got to lean into basketball, Chris, because when you have a win like that, you grab the conch. Sources in the Coliseum say Darren DeVries was not too happy about everybody forgetting about D-Rock. So he said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna win at Fog Allen. And golly, he did it. So he gets the stage right now. Rich Rodriguez can stand behind the scenes, assemble a roster. Maybe it's as good as the one that DeVries has here in the Coliseum. So we will see soon. Big three games coming up. Again, winnable games. You got that clock working on Tucker DeVries. Can they win these games, bank some wins, keep the momentum going, make sure it's just like an aberration, but also maybe blend in a couple of new parts. And I'm not talking Aiden Tagaloa Nelson either. I'm talking is Jaden Stone coming back? You get Hansberry back, but now you've got something with Andre. He's not a 12 to 15 minute player, a game guy right now, right? I think he earns a little bit more than that. Trouble was, so did Pat Sumnick. I just think that there's a different way you can do it. And then what I think about too was the first game that didn't have DeVries. What they do? They played the two bigs together. Is there something there they can do? If not to combat something like what happened today, the game is maybe a little bit different if you have Hansberry and Andre out there against Badunga and Dickinson. So perhaps it's a small thing, but I'm excited about Andre. I think that just he had a great game today when he had to have it. And what happens for him, I think it's a fun piece to watch, Paul. So perhaps we get some more answers there too.
All right, then.
Let's go pop the bubbly, Chris.
Let's do it.
I sure think we're not going to be the only ones doing that tonight. West Virginia 62-61 at Fog Allen Fieldhouse. History made just as we expected. Until then, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you then.